a successful founder will meet with their target market or their customers on a consistent basis. A successful founder is in the field talking to people, sometimes even handling customer service requests, and really is just embedded in the world of their client's problem.
Hi, everybody. This is Josh Becerra from Agurian, another episode of How I Work. I'm joined by Ken Vermielle. Thanks for being here, Ken.
Thank you, Josh, for introducing me. I'm super glad to be here.
Yeah, so a little background on Ken. He's the CEO of Vermilion Sky, a mobile and app development company that helps startups and enterprises build products that people love to use. I think our listeners are going to love this conversation because we're going to get into like what it takes to build SaaS and, like what are some of the mistakes and things. But before we get into some of those questions, why don't you just tell listeners a little bit about your background, what attracted you to kind of computer science and the path you took to get to where you are today?
Awesome. Thank you for that, Josh. So essentially, when I was 5 years old, my mom bought me a Nintendo. It's the original Super Mario Nintendo with Duck Hunt. And as a 5-year-old, I figured out how to put it together, how to plug everything in, and make everything work. I couldn't beat Super Mario because I was, again, 5, but yeah. I enjoyed the process of playing games. Fast forward many, many years, I am in pre-med, deciding to become a doctor. I'm sitting in a barbershop, and I'm like thinking, like, is this really what I want to do? And there was a magazine like for a video game school, like, hey, make video games and it'll be awesome and it'll change your life.
Yeah.
So I decided after like the most boring DNA lab ever, like what I mean, I remember we spent a week reading about the DNA, and I was like, wow, this is amazing, this is so fascinating. And then it was time to actually do it, and it was such a big letdown. I just said, you know what, I'm just gonna not.
I can't do it. I can't do it anymore.
Yeah, I just ended up saying, look, I'll go into psychology or whatever. But that's not what ended up happening. I ended up going to that video game school, Full Sail University, and I started on my path to making video games. Mm-hmm. During the time, I realized that the video game industry was not treating their employees amazingly, and I essentially decided to start a company of my own, making video games on my own for clients.
Nice.
We made a couple of video games, and then we realized that a lot of our clients were asking for websites to market their video game. And then from there, some clients asked, hey, do you make mobile games? And it's pretty much the same thing to use. We were using the same software to build video games as they use for mobile games, and we started doing that. And then from there, people started asking us for mobile applications, and then we ended up pretty much doing all of those things. So we did mobile games, mobile apps, and web applications. And what ended up happening was we started to see like a trend of people coming in, having a super awesome idea. We had the technical expertise to build it. There was essentially nothing that we couldn't do that wasn't prohibited by the platform. And a year or two after we launched, we helped them do everything. Their product would not be around anymore because their business failed.
Sure.
So we spent a little bit of time thinking back, like, we worked on all these projects, and some people were spending $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 on building something, and
that end up not working.
Exactly, it didn't work, right? And it was nothing on the technical side of things. And we started to think like, okay, well, like, what is the process of building a business that actually works, right? And essentially they were kind of putting the cart before the horse by saying, I have this awesome idea. I want to build this thing. And they didn't really have an audience. They didn't have a following. And they would launch kind of just to the abyss or to the App Store.
Build it and they will come.
Yes. And so we thought the same thing, right? Because, we're not coming from the business world. We were artists, developers, uh, data scientists before it was cool.
Yeah.
Uh, and the what we started seeing was, if you don't have an audience, if you don't have people who are really excited about your product, you're going to spend a lot of money and then nothing is going to happen.
Yeah.
So
I do
that's
think I do think that founders kind of get themselves into that mindset of like, we just need to build stuff, and then if people aren't using it, we just need to build more features because that's what the problem is. And I do think that it has a lot more to do with like your audience and figuring out like what they actually want and need. I know that you are a big believer in like the lean canvas, right? And I think that's like one of the ways that you can help founders like understand their business concept. And so, do you want to tell the listeners a little bit about lean canvas, maybe some of its benefits and why you take founders through that?
absolutely, yeah. Every time we bring on a new client, we need to understand what their strategy, what their overall strategy is. Everybody from the designers to the developers need to understand it, mainly because there are just micro decisions that happen on a day-to-day basis that if we
Yeah.
don't know what the long-term strategy is, we're going to make the wrong decision. So what the lean canvas does, it's a one page business plan, and it essentially allows us to figure out who the target market is, figure out your revenue source, the channels that you're going to sell through, and it brings it together all in one place.
Mm-hmm.
We do an exercise in where we sit down with our founders, and actually sometimes, a lot of the times, this works with established companies, and where we say, okay, you want to build this product, great. Here's the lean canvas. Let's go through all of these pieces, and what it does is make it starts to make ideas concrete. So
Yeah.
they might have like an idea of, oh yeah, we're going to sell it to this audience because they generally like it, right?
Right.
But if they don't actually know, like, okay, well, how old is this person? You know, where would they find you? What communities are they on? How are you going to even get this product into their hands? Is the cost of change too much? All this
Yep.
stuff kind of gets covered in that process. And there's been plenty of times we've deterred founders from building something, even though it would work out for us, right? But we've
Right.
deterred them from building something that would not work. And instead
Yeah.
we help them pivot to something that might not necessarily be what they wanted to build, but something that their audience wants.
Right. No, I love that. And like the coolest thing I think about Lean Canvas is that it's like one page,
Oh, yeah.
because previously it's like get the 60-page business plan and like all these things. And I do think that there are just certain like pillars of like what you need to understand about your business in order to make like the investment in going ahead and building something. And so it's pretty cool that you are almost like obligating founders to who want to work with you to like have those pillars like really well thought out and distilled down. I'm sure it makes projects a lot more successful.
Yes. The interesting thing is we did initially think that the solution was the 60-page business plan. And we there was a point in where we were thinking like, are we in the business of making business plans or are we in the business of building software?
Yeah.
So that initially that was my thought. And before we even got to the lean canvas, there was a step before that, which is called the business model canvas. Now, for the business model canvas, that's a little bit more for established organizations who do have the 60-page business plan, who do have established customer data, who have all this stuff, right? They're already making money, and they can plug things in and kind of make it work.
Yeah.
And the other thing about kind of planning on a page is that we don't only just do one page or one iteration. We do multiple iterations of what the product could be, and then we choose the best one.
That's interesting. That's very cool. So having like the front row seat in watching kind of founders bring their ideas to the world and having some of that experience of like in the early days of just like, yeah, we can help you build that. And then you build something, spend a lot of money, and it falls on its face. Like, what would you say some of like the biggest mistakes are that you see SaaS entrepreneurs making, or like the founders that you're working with?
There are a couple. The one that I'm starting to see a lot is, hey, this product already exists, therefore I can't build it. And on the flip side, oh, this product does not exist and I should build it.
Yeah.
When a product does not exist, like at all, and I mean, I'm not saying like my product exists, but it doesn't exist in this market. I mean, like this product does not exist at all.
The
There's
category doesn't even exist. Yeah.
Exactly. There's a reason why. It's either it's not feasible, it doesn't make money, or it is a little bit impossible. And because of that, people will build something. They'll just go into building something that doesn't exist and it doesn't work, and they're kind of just throwing money. And there are times in where it does work, but there are also times in where it just fails. Now, on the flip side, a founder choosing not to build something because it already does exist, they see a competitor, or as they're building their product, they're trying to like pivot and tweak their product to match this product that's about to come out. To be honest, you should just ignore that the competitors exist and really focus on the problems of your customers. For example, if you look at customer relationship management software, there's HubSpot, there's Salesforce, and all of those things. And me being a small business owner, every week I'm just trying one on and seeing which one fits, because each of these different softwares, they cater to a specific set of problems. And if they and the actually super interesting thing is, as my business grows, it might not make sense for me to use like a copper CRM. It might be time for me to switch over to HubSpot. So there are all these factors that actually work in between software that has a lot of competition, that you can just carve out your niche and work towards.
Yeah. Yeah. One of my favorite examples is like jet.com, who a lot of people have never even heard of or whatever, but like basically they replicated what Amazon was doing when Amazon was only like doing books and selling other things online. Amazon obviously has its hands in a lot of different parts of tech these days, but they like took what Amazon was doing and they replicated it, and they became like the second best to Amazon from a long way away. But then they got acquired by Walmart, right? So it's like, it's not bad to be second best at times, right? So,
not at all.
So we've talked about kind of the mistakes, right? Like not building something because it's already exists, or building some new category that like, man, you're going to have to really hustle to get people to even like hear you and talk and understand what you're doing. What about like the successful founders that you've worked with? Are there like attributes or things that you see them doing that the people who are struggling aren't doing?
A successful founder will meet with their target market or their customers on a consistent basis. A successful founder is in the field talking to people, sometimes even handling customer service requests, and really is just embedded in the world of their client's problem. All software really does is it solves a problem for people, and that problem can change, that problem can evolve. New solutions of that problem may come out, new solutions to that problem may come out, and it's really important for the founder to be very, very embedded in the problem. For instance, if somebody launches a SaaS application and they set it and forget it, another competitor will come, somebody who's close to their customers, who's building an audience with their customers, and essentially eat their lunch. Right. So the founder who is really on top of understanding the problem to the point where they can describe the problem right back to their customer, that's the person that's going to win. A
Yeah.
lot of this time, a lot of the times, it does involve like sitting down with people, going to trade shows, doing all of the kind of hustler founder stuff, even giving
Mhm.
talks and appearing on podcasts. All of these
Yeah.
things allow a founder to be really, really excellent. And it also makes my job easier because that means I don't have to do that for them.
Yeah. No, that's great. And I think that like there's a lot of people who default to, well, we're building software as a service. And so what we need to do is figure out like what is our cost per acquisition and how is it that we're going to be able to like build something that scales. And so they're so focused on like creating these like campaigns and outreach, and like that's how they think that they're going to like be able to hit their goals. But what I hear you saying, and I think it's very true, is while you might need to do some of those things, the real key to success is being belly to belly with your customer, understanding exactly what are their wants and needs are, and building to help them like fulfill those things.
Yeah,
So I love the distinction there.
absolutely. I like belly to belly because yeah, that's exactly what needs to happen. And eventually, the founder would not have to do that. Eventually, you hire somebody who is um, doing that on the day to day,
Yep.
but that person reports to you, and that person lets you know, hey, uh, Chat GPT-4 just released, right? We need to we have to figure out, why are people using it and why are people excited about it, right?
Yep.
Um, all of those insights cannot be automated. It has to be
Right.
done by a person who is in the problem.
Yep. Love that. So, one thing that I think a good question that I think the audience might be interested in is just, you own a mobile app and development shop, and you're providing these dev services to founders. I think that not all dev shops, not all are created equal. So, like, do you have some advice that you would give to someone who's trying to choose the right software development partner? Are there any like red flags that founders should look for when they are kind of vetting or doing their due diligence on software partners?
Yes, there are. Well, first we'll talk about the red flags. So there is a tendency for software development agencies to kind of just build whatever you want them to build, right? Even I fell into this trap, and where somebody would say, "Hey, I want to build terrible software," and we looked at our balance sheet and we said, "Yes, we will build this terrible software for you."
Right. We
Right?
can do that.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But that's really just short term thinking. Um,
Mm-hmm.
a, we did a survey about a year ago of kind of how software agencies do their sales, and a lot of them won't spend the time with you to really understand what you're trying to build. They'll kind of push you into, okay, well, here's a quote. It's $400,000. Here, like, they'll send you like a really nice pre-planned proposal,
Yeah.
and they'll kind of overestimate and under deliver. And
Yeah.
it's mainly because software development is difficult. It's really difficult to figure out like how much something will cost and all that stuff. But
Sure.
one way to get around that is to spend time in like a longer discovery process, longer than it might make sense, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if you do like a 2 to 4 week discovery process, in where if they're willing to do a 2 to 4 week discovery process, in where they're understanding who you are, understanding who your customer is, working with you to make sure that you are going to get a return on your investment. Um,
Yeah.
that is, and if they choose not to do that, then that's a red flag.
Right.
So don't like jump into these decisions and make them pretty lightly. Yes, you could look at portfolios, but what I've found is that a founders will come in and say, "Have you built something like this? Right? Have you built something exactly like what I want to build?"
Yeah.
And generally speaking, 80% of software is just the same. And so if you like someone, if somebody says, "Hey, we built something and we could build the same thing like in a couple of minutes for you," not a couple of minutes, but in like 2 or 3 weeks for you, that's a red flag because
Yeah.
one, they've kind of seen that you've seen that they've built something similar, and they're gonna want to sell you on that very quickly. Um, on the positive side, uh, an agency that will spend time with you, that's good. An agency that also has a focus on technical expertise, uh,
Mm-hmm.
because right now you can hire somebody and they'll be okay, right? Um, but they might not do what we do, which is integrated and automated tests. We focus on making sure that the code is clean. We
Yeah.
practice architecture, clean code, and what that means is that our developers are able to write code. Our developers are able to expend less time and energy to get things done because we spend
Right.
time testing and refining and tweaking and making it so that as we build, we're not building spaghetti code along the way. We're building code that you can build upon. We also have a
Yeah.
bunch of plugins that make it
Scale.
quicker.
Right.
Yes.
Like I feel like a piece of this is like, yeah, not only do you need to be comfortable with like who you're working with, understand their technical capabilities, um, make sure that like they are building something so that it could potentially scale, not something that like would have to get completely refactored a year from now because you got 1,000 users and now your Amazon Web Services bill is like through the roof because like it's completely held together with duct tape on the back end, right? So like there are like decisions that if they're made correctly very early on, they're going to benefit you over the long term.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And a note to that Amazon services build, there have been plenty of times that we've spoken to clients and they're like, "Yeah, my bill is $10,000," and we're like,
Wow.
"There's no reason why it should be $10,000 a month."
Yeah.
And we'll kind of look at the code and we'll look at exactly um, what's happening on the back end, and we're like, "Oh, well, you don't need this, you don't need this. Let's set up some auto scaling so that when you're not really getting a lot of traffic, your server scales down, and or let's set up a load balancer to kind of manage some of this traffic." And like there are things that you could do to optimize. And
Yeah.
yes, unfortunately, most of our clients are from people who've built something in the past. They had a little bit of friction with either the performance of their dev team or just the performance of the product. And we
Yeah.
come in and it's not all of the time it's terrible and the worst code. I'm not going to say that. But there are a lot of things that we see that we can optimize, right? For instance, a 10K bill, if you take that down to, $1,000, then that extends the server runway for 9 months, right?
Yeah. Or it frees up more money to make more investments and new features and things like that. Right.
Exactly. And so bad sloppy code and bad DevOps management, it is a time not only is it a time suck, but you're also spending money on things that you don't even need.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we
So you
fixed
mentioned, go ahead, finish
it.
up.
Yeah. Oh, I said, yeah, we fixed that and make it so that you're not spending money, you're building the right product at the right time, and the focus isn't just making money in the short term because generally, um, if we were to build something that would only work for a year, most of our clients they're with us 2 3 years, and that's just problems for us down the line.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
instead, we focus on building what makes sense and what can scale.
Yeah. One of the things you briefly mentioned, I heard you say, is that you do a lot of like A/B testing and maybe conversion rate optimization things with your clients. When we were prepping for this, you mentioned that you use amplitude analytics funnels and things like this. At Augurian, we focus a ton of our energy on understanding data and analytics for our clients. We also run A/B tests and do conversion rate optimization and things like that. It was the first time I heard like a web dev or app dev shop talk about doing A/B tests for their clients. Can you talk a little bit about why you do that? Like why you see it as being important?
Yes, absolutely. So what we a lot of the times we'll bump heads with our clients.
Hmm.
Bump heads in the sense of they'll tell us that they want to build something, and we might give them a little bit of pushback because, again, we want to build the right thing at the right time.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of most projects, we figure out what is the shortest distance to extracting, or, to getting a payment from the customer, whether
Hmm.
that be an in-app purchase or a subscription. We figure out like what are the steps to get there, and using Amplitude, we create funnels. So in the application, there are steps that a user will take, and then we look at those funnels and essentially try to optimize based off of that. So let's say download from the App Store, create an account, tap, an item, browse, add it to the cart, move forward, right?
Yeah.
Let's say that creating an account is detrimental to the conversion rate, right? So
Right.
we will A/B test. Hey, this 50% of users get the create account option. 50% of the users get no account creation option, and we'll look at the data and we'll tie real money to it, and then we'll see which one makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Generally, we don't want to run too many experiments at the same time because then things get muddled. But quarterly, we kind of determine what is a goal for the mobile app. Like, what is it that you want to fix? Do you want to increase revenue? Do you want to increase engagement? Do you just want to grow audience use? And so, once we figure out what that is, that's when we say, okay, here are the experiments that we're going to run. We're going to run one every 2 weeks. And then we're just going to iterate towards making sure that we hit that quarterly goal. And so, using Amplitude, using feature flags. So, feature flags allows us to say, to segment the audience based off of some, internally defined tags, and then ensuring that we're reviewing those analytics on a weekly basis, because
Yeah.
sometimes things go wrong. Sometimes by implementing a feature, you get like a steep drop, and we never want to see that. But really, we want to see a 10 or 20% increase, um, difference between our A/B tests, and then we decide what the best thing to do is based off of that data.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's super important. And to get like founders and entrepreneurs in this mindset that like you should always be testing, and that, if somebody has some idea that's different from yours, instead of being resistant to like trying that, you should kind of come at these projects with this, like, we should test that mindset. Like, okay, I don't necessarily think that might work, but let's go ahead and test it, and we'll see in the data like if it does or does not work. So it's really cool as a digital marketer and someone who's like always pushing our clients to have like this testing mindset, and trying to figure out like how is it that we can just get some of those incremental wins over time, through conversion rates and other things, that you're actually doing that like on the front end with your clients well before maybe they would ever engage with a marketing company like ours. So that's
Yes.
very cool.
And the other thing is, it also makes the marketer's job easier.
Yeah.
Say, hey, we'd love to see analytics. Who's using the application? Who's the target customer? Who are the whale customers? The customers that spend the most money.
Yeah.
We can literally say, here you go, right? Here's everything. It's all on Amplitude. We've set everything up. And generally speaking, when we do get like a professional marketing agency in, that's kind of when we kind of hand everything off to them and allow them to do their thing.
Yeah.
And in the process of that, there are definitely things that they want to try it because the system is already established, it's already set up, and they just want to build on top of that.
Yeah.
And what we found is that those incremental wins, 10% here, 5% there, home run 50%, all of these add up to like a really well like polished feeling looking product.
Yeah.
And no, it doesn't happen overnight. And yes, there are times where we're wrong in our hypothesis and our guesses, but the end result is something that usually allows our clients to have some type of financial freedom because generally they're non-technical and they they're not in they are experts at a field. So we had doctors and other PhDs who are experts at one thing and they want to bring their idea into the
Yeah.
marketplace. And so by allowing them to either supplement their income or, expand their income significantly, it's always a good feeling to see how these small tweaks and changes allow the ultimate big success story of seeing where they are.
Yeah, yeah. No, testing mindset is so important in entrepreneurship, in marketing, in building software. So it's really cool that like we've got that alignment here. So Ken, this has been an awesome conversation. I have one last question that I'd love to just ask all my guests. And it's basically like, are there any books or podcasts or thought leaders that are influencing you today? And if so, why? Who and why?
What am I reading? I'm reading this book called it's called Hyperion. It's a
Okay.
sci-fi book, and the thing that I really like about it is it's completely different than what I would think like a sci-fi book would be. It comes from the narrative of a couple of passengers, and they're talking about this planet, and there's something on the planet. I'm not going to give any spoilers, but I'm reading this, and I'm watching TV and thinking like this book is way better than anything that's on TV. Why don't they make
Yeah.
this a series, or why don't they make this something?
Yeah.
And so it kind of puts me in like the sense of yes, it might be that TV and movies and things are kind of mushing together and everything is like a Marvel thing, but there is still like content in media that you can consume for entertainment that's outside of that sphere.
Yeah.
And, you know, it
I
really
just think,
inspires me
yeah,
to
like
keep moving forward.
what you're talking about is like your own kind of imagination of what this world could look like can be so much more vibrant than like anything that Netflix could probably produce, right? And it's kind of your own. And I do think that that's really cool about like reading books or on a Kindle or whatever is it allows for our own kind of human creativity to be involved in that process, whereas when you're watching a movie you're not using any of your own creativity to add to that story. So love it.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Ken, for your time. This has been awesome. And that's going to do it for this episode of How I Work. Bye, y'all.